All right. Hello and welcome back to another Tile Nation Sessions. What are the Tile Nation Sessions, you might be asking yourself? Well, this was created to bring the industry together like never before. I am the host of these sessions. I am doing some short interviews with tile contractors, designers, industry professionals, manufacturers. Today, we've got several great interviews. To start things off, I'm going to have Brad Denny to the stage, and he'll join me, and we'll get to know his story. These are about 15-minute interviews, and what happens is in between the interviews, we do have an open room, so you can continue to network as you already experienced these last 15 minutes or so. Mike, good to see you in here. And if everybody sees the chat to your right, you can chat with the whole room at once. You can ask questions, and feel free to ask Brad or any of the interviewees questions as I'm interviewing them. And we will get to that towards the end of the interview. You can also private chat with your table, and you can private chat with a person as an individual basis. So if you're having trouble with your cameras or mics, my team is in here. We will do our best to assist you with that. In the private chat, just reach out, let the general chat know you're having some issues. I would like to thank today's sponsor, Laticrete International, for sponsoring this new event. It's exciting. We are, doing the best we can to keep ourselves busy in these interesting times that we're all living in. And what a great way to do that. So I am going to invite Brad Denny to the stage. And Brad, for those of you who don't know Brad, he is a contractor, a generational contractor out of Nashville, Tennessee. Nichols Tile Terrazzo, Tile and Terrazzo, I believe is the name of his company. Brad, thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. This is a fun venue.
All right. All right. Did I get that right? Is it Nichols Tile and Terrazzo?
That's right. Nichols Tile and Terrazzo.
All right. And how many generations does that go back? How many years? Tell us a little bit of the history of the company.
Okay. So my grandfather actually started the company in 1973. He had a couple of, before 73, a couple of partnerships. And before the partnerships, he actually worked with a union company, a large union company in Nashville, Tennessee. And he kind of ran the out-of-town terrazzo projects for that company. And he started early 50s. So, he'd already had a pretty good bit of time under his belt and some experience with some ventures. And then started in 73. And then I came on. My dad actually started with him about that time as well. He had gotten out of college, and my dad always jokes around and says that he was going to do this until he found something else, and he still hasn't found anything else to do yet. So he's still with us. And then I came on just working in the summers, and when we had time off from school at about 14, I think they snuck me out on the job sites. So I didn't get to go play and have fun like my friends were. They made me go to work, which I hated for the longest time. And then I did a couple of years of college, and then finally settled into the business officially about 98, I think, full time. So.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, you're running quite the, part of quite the operation there. I always love hearing success stories, generational companies like that. I believe you're a 5-star, contractor. Is that correct?
That's right. I think it's been about 2 years ago we went through that process, and it's a pretty heavy process. It's a vetting process that they go through where they look at your books. You get peer reviews, you get reviews to those you have accounts with. You have to show some technical ability on like several jobs from your past 12 months, and just like not only pictures but descriptions. So they really kind of pick through and make sure that you are who you say you are, and luckily we've been able to be who we say we are. That's great.
Yeah, I've been talking to some other folks like Trask, and they're going through that process. Icon Tile, Jamin, Matthews out of Washington, similar thing. And I've been learning more and more about it. It's exciting. and a great, a great badge of honor for sure. And you wear it well. Brad, forgive me, I jumped into the business right away, but we didn't hear about you. Tell us your story. Who are you? What kind of a family you got going on? What do you love to do in your downtime? So on and so forth.
Sure. No, thanks for asking, because there are things outside of business.
That's true. And
So
these sessions are designed to help us get to know each other on a personal level.
All right. Well, cool. Well, I am I'm married. I've been married since 2005. I've got two beautiful children, an 11-year-old little girl and a 6-year-old boy. They right now it's a little bit crazy. They being home and both of them are athletic, and they like to play and they like to run. So this is, I haven't thought about a good response to this. I was thinking Dirk,
we were going to have Dirk up here as well. And maybe we'll get into, Dirk's story a little bit, but unfortunately he had some camera issues with his computer. So I know we're shifting gears a little. Thank you.
That's all right. It's all right. I mean, I guess a lot of who I am is family. I mean, that's we run a family business, and so our family's pretty tight knit group. My wife's family's a pretty tight knit group. Her family actually comes from a masonry background, and so when we came together, there was a lot of similar things that we had going on. But I stay involved in my community, in my church community. And then I guess the big thing that I love to do when I'm not trying to play on Facebook and answer tile questions is go backpacking and try to enjoy the outdoors. We go canoeing and we go hiking, and of course all the sports keep us outside and stuff too. So I like to try to finish up a good hard days of work and then go work and hard out in the yard with the kids. So
yeah. Well, that's great. It sounds like a good life. I know you post a lot of outdoor pictures on your Facebooks and stuff like that. And it looks, it's a beautiful countryside. I've only been there a few times now, but I always enjoy it. And got to know it a little bit better there, your home state, this last September as I rolled through and saw you. That was fun.
Yeah.
So
yeah, fortunately at that event, rarely does any type of tile event come to Nashville. I mean, we're a happening town, but we're still kind of a small town. So, I had a trip with my daughter. They have one big school trip for her grade each year, and that particular year was like it was a nature's classroom kind of a thing. And so I only got to attend the meetings before TSP and didn't get to actually attend the event. So I tried to get all my important stuff of saying hello and then TCNA and NTCA and ANSI stuff out of the way.
Yeah. Well, things happen, that's life.
That's right.
And it's good to put family first. That's always the right decision, I believe.
That's right.
I'm curious with the family business like that, what, maybe you can share some challenges and also some rewards that you've experienced over the years by remaining in the family business.
That's a great question. So, it's not all it's not always rosy here at all. I mean, my dad, my sister, and I all equally own the company now that my grandparents passed, and we kind of took over that as that next generation. And but we love each other, and we definitely would go to the mat for each other, and just being able to be on the same wavelength as about a lot of things are really good, but we're also individuals. And so Dad and I probably have some extreme views about things, but my sister does a really good job of helping us meet in the middle on a lot of issues. But when we sit down and think about who we are as a company and what we're doing, I mean that family idea permeates throughout. A lot of the decisions that we make is thought of as it's just not our family, my dad, my sister, and I, but also the people who work for us. I mean, they're just as much of our family as anybody else, and we just really try to interject that idea, in everything that we do.
Yeah, well, that's a great attitude, and there's going to be a lot of people who are listening to this who can relate, because a lot of us tilers, well, not us, but I'm first generation myself, but a lot of the tilers I know out there in the world are second, third type generations, and they do have this experience at some point in their life of partnering with the older generation, or maybe taking over the business. So if you don't mind, I'll direct those questions to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can help a lot of people, and that's really what this is all about.
Sure. So as far as succession type of an idea,
yeah.
I mean, I think it's better to plan early. I mean, goodness gracious, don't wait until, somebody has fell ill or is just fed up with it. One of the biggest struggles that we have as a family business is making time for things, because in business, we all have a role that we play. And sometimes we just duck our heads and we just go and we just play our role, and not taking time to step back and look at the big picture. And I mean, if we did it every day for an hour every day, I probably still wouldn't be satisfied with how much time we're actually spending on thinking about these bigger issues. But we try to carve out some time to sit down and think about, what does it look like when you're ready to get out? What does it look like when you're ready to get out? How are we going to navigate some of these issues that might come up, along the way, as somebody enters that phase of life.
Yeah. That's great advice. I mean, think big, think future, think ahead. Solid advice there. Thank you for sharing that, Brad.
Mm-hmm.
What's exciting to you right now in the tile industry? What gets you, what are you hopeful for? Or what do you see coming down the road that gets you excited?
Oh, that's a good question too. I mean, I just think that growing up, right? So I learned from my grandfather. I worked with my grandfather every day. Now, we had other installers that were out there who had certain ways that they did things. But my grandfather basically learned from Italian installers that he worked for in that union company. And that was the way he did it. And then he taught that to me, and that was the way that I did it. And so, outside influences for me, didn't really happen until like, I don't know, 05, 06, something like that. And I got involved in the John Bridge Forum. And it was just like, there's all these people out there that have similar aspirations as me, but are doing things differently. My granddad was so rigid in things. He was like, well, if it's my way or the highway, kind of a thing. And so then I started to entertain other things, and then comes along, this TCNA handbook thing. Oh, that's kind of interesting. And then there's ANSI standards, and oh wow, there's a labor association that specifically represents the interests of tile contractors in the NTCA. So I think that was more difficult in the past, and I think in the future that's just going to become easier to do. The networking, getting solid, good technical advice, getting good, solid business advice. I think it's kind of exciting, because that's where our future, is going with that as an industry. I mean, the technology is always cool. It's amazing what people can do out there with the materials. I think that just calls on a need for us as installers to be on top of our game when it comes to where our liabilities are concerned and everything. It's something that you definitely have to keep up on. So maybe it's easier to network, but there's other complications that go along with that as well. But yeah, I mean, I think the future's bright. I think we see the tendency in society to have there's a lack of skilled work out there, skilled work out there, tradespeople.
Yeah,
and so we can fill that void,
Yeah. Now, did I catch that right, that you kind of introduced your father to the NTCA and the TCNA and things of that nature? Or?
Well, and I can't even remember what the name was. It was the Southern Tile and Terrazzo. There was a before it was NTCA. There was another name, and we were actually a part of that, probably in early 80s, maybe late 70s, early 80s. But it was kind of just a membership, I think, they did subscribe. They never really jumped into it. Yeah. I actually had a buddy that lived just south of Nashville in McMinnville, Tullahoma area. His name was Tom Hambrock, and everybody called him Hammy. And he was big on the John Bridge forums.
Yeah.
And he kind of would come up to get materials, and he'd call on me and be like, "Hey, you got to go do this. You got to go do that. Check out this NTCA thing." Yeah. And at the time, he was a Middle Tennessee State ambassador. And then he died suddenly and just tragically of a heart attack.
I remember that.
And throughout that process, I kind of got to know, because the NTCA was real supportive of that, and I got to talking to Bart and Jim and said, "Hey, if you need somebody in this area to do that, I'd be willing to do it." So I stepped into that role, and then shortly after that, our regional director had bad health, and so they needed somebody in that position, and I stepped into it, and just things have kind of continued to roll on there.
That's a great. Thank you for sharing that. History. Yeah. I did meet your father at the in Nashville right before TSP at a NTCA training event. I guess it was a Del Tile possibly.
Yep.
And yeah, pleasure meeting your father. Really, good to see his zeal for the industry. Still, we've got a question from the audience, and everybody else. We're getting close to the conclusion of this interview. So throw your questions up in the audience in the chat box if you want Brad to answer something. Mike Whalen says, "What projects does your company typically manage?"
So we do small commercial as a vast majority of what we do. We do a lot of tenant space build outs. We do a lot of full bathroom remodels. We do new construction as well, but it's usually a lot of commercial bathrooms, commercial lobbies. We're doing a pretty nice lobby right now with some gauge porcelain tile panels on like columns and on the floors and things like that. We have we do some residential projects. It's not something that we necessarily go after. You always get roped into doing family and friends stuff in some form or fashion. So we do some of those.
Yeah.
And then we do some higher end things as well.
Yeah, and you guys do killer work. We got two more questions. What steps should maximize chances of maintaining or increasing profitability in months? And that came from Joseph.
Okay, you're breaking up just a tad on me here, Luke. Let me. I'll read that question. What sort of steps should sole proprietors take to maximize their chances of maintaining or increasing profitability in the coming months? That's. I guess that's the question on everybody's mind, right? I mean, I kind of think that continuing to and because I'm not a sole proprietor, I may not be the best to answer this question. But I mean, I would say that the individual probably needs to make sure that they stay in contact with that client base or that avenue that they're typically getting their revenue from. So if it's a builder or if it's leads that are coming in off of a Facebook page or a business page or wherever that might be, was just staying on top of that. I think that we're going to see the country start to loosen up a little bit and start to have an opportunity for people to get back to work. And I think that continuing to practice really, really good safety habits, health safety habits, and even making sure that your clients are aware of that you're doing that might free you up to be able to do some projects that may end up getting canceled if you don't have those practices.